everybody, and welcome to the second edition of Baking with Callie. First of all, I hope everybody is staying healthy and safe, and we hope to have you back at the club soon. But until then, I thought it would be fun to do a cooking demo for you from my home to yours. Today we're going to be making blueberry scones. It's a great breakfast item and they freeze well, so you could pull them out of the freezer every morning and have a fresh scone. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to need just a medium-sized mixing bowl like this, and we're going to need 8 ounces of butter. So we have a big block of butter here. This is what you could purchase at Wycliffe grocery, and we're just going to cut this block in half. It's a 1 pound block, so we only need half of this. Cut that in half. I just eyeball it. Now if you purchase the baking kit, this will already be portioned for you and measured out, so you won't have to worry about that. And I'll just cut it up into little pieces and put it right in our bowl. So we're going to chop this. We're going to be adding all of our butter and our flour and our dry ingredients together, and then folding in our wet ingredients. So save our remaining butter for another use. Put that in our refrigerator. To the butter bowl, we're going to add 3 cups plus 2 tablespoons. So we're going to grab our flour. Have our tablespoons right here. Cups. I'm going to make sure it's nice and level. I like to tap it. Sometimes I'll use the back of a knife to scrape it evenly. Tap it, make sure you get all the flour in there. Now at the club, we will measure a lot, we will weigh out a lot of our recipes versus using cups. It's a little more accurate and it's faster. So that's 3 cups plus 2 tablespoons. So we got our 2 tablespoons here. This recipe makes about 20 good-sized scones, 24 if you cut them a little smaller. To that, we're going to add 1.5 cups of cake flour. Cake flour just makes your scones a little lighter. So we'll use our 1/2 cup first. Level it off into our bowl. Cup. Shake, tap. Level it off nice and evenly and into our bowl. Then let's give that a little mix. We're going to add 1/3 cup of sugar. So again, I'm gonna scoop 1/3. Shake it, make sure it's even. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon plus 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So again, we want to make sure that is nice and level without making too much of a mess. And 1/2 teaspoon. Followed by a teaspoon of salt. Again, level that off. So next we're going to cut in our butter into our flour, sugar, and baking powder mix. We're just going to cut just like as if you would be making a pie dough. If you don't have a bench scraper like this, you could use a pastry cutter, or if you don't have either one of those, you could just use your hands. I'll show you. And you're just gonna work it in there, breaking up the butter into just little bits. We're looking for just a nice crumbled look. to try to incorporate all the butter into the flour mixture. Now once we're finished, our mixture should look like wet sand, all the butter thoroughly incorporated, no big lumps, just like that. So, we'll wash our hands. All right, so the next step is we're going to add our cream and our eggs into our dry mixture. So what we're gonna need is 3 eggs cracked to a little bowl. To that we're gonna add 1 cup of cream. I like to beat the egg a little bit first. Then I'll just add it to my cream mixture. Give that a little stir, mix it all up. Okay. To that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. I like a good amount of vanilla. Brings out the flavor of the blueberries. So we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. You could add more or less to your liking. I always infuse my vanilla with a vanilla bean. It just brings out the more flavor of the vanilla. Put that aside. Again, give that another stir. Now we're going to pour this mixture into here. I kind of like to make a little well just to get it going. We're going to pour that in there. Now you could do this 2 ways. You could use it, you can mix it with your hands, which I find a lot easier, or you could just use a spatula and slowly bring it together. So I'm just going to use my hands. Gets a little messy, but it's worth it. You could also use gloves if you don't want to get your hands dirty. Bring all that flour up from the bottom and turn. Next we're going to add our blueberries, which we're going to give them a quick wash. Going to be 1 package of blueberries. Then I usually just like to lightly dry them on a clean kitchen towel. And we're going to dump it. So just give them a quick pat dry, and then we'll dump them right in. And then again, we're going to mix this up just gently. Just to fold all the blueberries in. So the next step is we're going to take our blueberry scone dough and we're going to turn it out onto a clean surface, whether that be your kitchen countertop or a cutting board. And I'm just going to use my countertop right here. We're just going to sprinkle that with some flour. This is just going to help prevent the dough from sticking to your surface. So we'll get a nice even spread there, and then we'll turn out our dough. And we want nice flaky scones, so we're not going to use a rolling pin. I just like to kind of pat out my dough because the more you work your dough, the tougher your scone is going to be. We want a nice, light, fluffy scone. So I just kind of pat it out and push it out into a nice, we're looking for a rectangle shape, and we want a nice thick scone too. So you can pick it up and turn it, just lightly push it out. If your dough feels sticky, you could always add more flour, just a little bit, if you feel that the dough seems overly sticky. But just push, pat, try to get an even square or rectangle. Now you can make these as big, as thick as you want, but I like mine nice and thick, so this is a good solid inch I have here. So after you have your shape, we're gonna cut them into triangles. Again, I'm gonna use my bench scraper. This is a great tool just for cutting in dough, or using it as kind of a knife because it won't hurt your countertop, but you could also just use a knife if you don't have one of these. So I'm going to cut this into four equal pieces, strips. We're going to preheat our oven to 350. And then the next step is we're going to cut it into triangles. So I'll go triangle, and then we go back down that way. So you should get about about 5 to 6 little nice sized scones out of each piece. And then we're going to line those up on a baking sheet that's lined with parchment paper. No need to spray this because the scones won't stick. So we're going to line those up. Make sure give them a little space because they are going to puff up as they bake. Now, like I said earlier in the video, you can freeze these. So if you only want to bake off 2 or 3, you could freeze the rest of them. Now what I'll do now if I want to freeze them is I like to wrap them individually. That way they stay nice and fresh and they won't get freezer burned. So I'll just take my scones and then I wrap them up individually, and that way they're ready to go and you can pull just 1 or 2 out as you need them. So the final step before we bake is we want to put a little egg wash on our scones. That'll just give them a nice golden color. So I'm going to crack 1 egg. And then I add just a splash of cream, which is about a tablespoon, so if you want to measure, you can. Splash of cream. Then we will mix that up. Then we'll just brush that on top with a little pastry brush. If you don't have a pastry brush, you could just use the back of a teaspoon. That works as well. So if you don't have one of these little brushes at home, you can just use a little teaspoon, just put a little bit on the top and use the back of the spoon to kind of spread it around. And that works just as well. Just a little bit. And then on top of these, we're going to add a little bit of sugar in the raw. Just adds a nice little crunch. Now before we put our scones in the oven, we're going to chill them for about 30 minutes. This will help the butter from spreading out of the scone too fast. We're going to bake our scones at 350 for 10 to 12 minutes. Scones are done. Know your scones are done when they're a nice golden brown. And if you just press lightly on the top, they should be firm and not doughy. And we just let them cool and then enjoy. Thank you again for tuning in to Baking with Callie, and the scone take and bake kit is available at Wycliffe Grocery. Thanks, and see you again next time.